A new world is born. BRICS wipes out hegemony off the map and wipes out G7 influence. BRICS is short for Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. But there have been a lot of members joining up, and you're going to see a map as to how many have joined up and are joining, especially this year. BRICS is not new, it's been around for decades. The expansion of BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, demonstrates a growing global role of developing countries. A new multipolar world is emerging and poised to topple 30 years of U.S. hegemony, China reckons, citing the BRICS expansion. The expansion of BRICS, as we said, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, demonstrates the growing global role of developing countries, China Daily reports. Over the past 10 years, the BRICS have grown in success and their influence has been widely recognized. Joining this organization means more opportunities for development, China points out. The impact of the BRICS organization is more evident than ever. Huge interest from 19 countries. According to information, 19 countries from around the world have expressed interest in joining the group as members or as observers, the publication stressed, adding that the expansion demonstrates the reinforcing role of developing countries in drafting the new global norms. Taking the BRICS as an example, China has played a critical role in the process of promoting and developing of international organizations, particularly those for least developed countries and emerging market economies over the past 2 decades, according to the report. It's officially predicted that the contribution of membership to global economic growth will be a total of 32.1% in 2023, while the contribution of the G7 represented by developing countries, including the US, will be 29.9%, the newspaper notes. So a new world is born. Chinese President Xi Jinping first proposed the important idea of, quote, building a new type of international relations, end quote, in a speech at the Moscow State Institute of International Relations in March of 2013. He emphasized that the profound changes take place in the world brought new opportunities for multipolar and the rapid rise of multiple power centers, the stronger economic vitality of emerging markets, and their increasing influence on the international stage. The main diplomacy of countries with China characteristics is to promote a new type of international relations characterized by mutual respect and justice. This is linked to multipolarity, which opposes group confrontation or vicious competition, but advocates respect for diversity and equal opportunities for all countries. Entering the 21st century, multipolarity has become an obvious trend. A new wave of technological revolution, represented by the development of the internet, big data, and artificial intelligence, is gaining popularity, which not only radically changed the way countries and peoples interact, but also upended the original balance of power. The profound changes not seen in a century characterize the rise of emerging and developing countries as a group and a world no longer dominated by a few developed countries. This is a manifestation of multipolarity. In 2001, when BRICS concept was coined, the combined GDP of the countries, excluding South Africa, was $2.7 trillion, representing only 8% of the world total. And 20 years later, by 2021, the combined GDP of the 5 BRICS countries reached $24.5 trillion, which is about a quarter of the global total, 24%, and contributes to over 50% of global economic growth. So taken together, the economies of emerging and developing countries now account for nearly 40% of the world's total. Changes in economic power must be reflected in world politics and international relations, which means that developing countries seek greater say and autonomy. This is precisely the true nature of a multipolar world. The USA, the enemy of multipolarity? However, not all international powers welcome multipolarity. During the Cold War, the US used to suppress rapidly developing economies such as Japan to protect its hegemony, but this approach was not challenged as these economies were all allied to Washington. In contrast, the emerging post-Cold War powers are mostly non-Western countries and seek independence not only in economics but also in politics and security. With the establishment of the G20 in 1999, developing countries began to connect with developed countries, discuss and decide the rules of international economic activities. The global financial crisis that erupted in the US in 2008 further raised international awareness of the dangers of a unipolar world, accelerating the shift and rise of new centers of power. However, the path of world order has changed somewhat due to complex changes in international relations, especially the escalating superpower rivalry, the outbreak of the pandemic, and regional conflicts. And led by the US, Western countries took advantage of the situation to impose unilateral sanctions and, quote, long-term jurisdiction, end quote, in order to strengthen an international system that suits their needs, their interests. Joe Biden's administration seeks to maintain U.S. hegemony based on its long-standing allies and by strengthening NATO's geopolitical influence while making every effort to limit competitors. The road to multipolarity remains long and difficult. In order to build a new kind of international relations and a healthy global governance system, it's necessary to overcome traditional international political thinking and let the world learn from historical experience and redefine the rules of international law, China Daily points out. So, what should be done? First, new relationships based on trust must be built so that countries can strengthen communication exchanges at all levels, try to establish a stable framework for cooperation, and avoid unnecessary confrontation and malicious competition. Second, new models of cooperation should be explored so that countries interact through dialogue rather than confrontation, through partnership rather than alliance. For example, China, Russia, and Central Asian countries continue to strengthen their strategic partnerships, clarifying the new principles of eternal friendship, quote unquote. Third, new concepts of development should be created to shake off the influence of the Cold War mentality and power politics, promote openness and inclusion, and create a robust development environment for all countries in the world. And fourth, new interaction mechanisms must be created. China's stable and friendly relations with its neighboring countries are the favorable results of policies based on friendship, sincerity, mutual benefit and understanding, as well as various cooperation and consultation mechanisms. Now, let's remember, these are comments made by China, so, I doubt that, for example, Taiwan would, or areas in the South China Sea, where China is claiming territory belonging to neighboring countries, I doubt that these neighboring countries have an image of a friendly China. Now, the China-Russia example, when Chinese President Xi Jinping met with his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin during his visit to Russia in March, he pointed out that both China and Russia support multipolarity and work for greater democracy in international relations, and that both countries should strengthen coordination and cooperation in multilateral organizations such as the United Nations, and be a bulwark for global peace and stability. As two major neighboring countries, China and Russia, have smoothly resolved historical issues and established good neighborly relations through global cooperation. They've continuously deepened political mutual trust, fully played the strategic role of head of state diplomacy, and actively expanded pragmatic bilateral and multilateral cooperation. In essence, they set up the example for a new type of international relations. And as the world undergoes unprecedented changes and witnesses relentless competition between major powers, the comprehensive strategic partnership of cooperation between China and Russia in the new era has demonstrated strong resilience, benefiting the development and prosperity of the people in both countries. In addition, through cooperation in multilateral frameworks such as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, BRICS, G20, and APEC, the two countries have contributed to global and regional governance. This is from Banking News, and I've translated this for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.